All right. So excited to have Backwards Classroom again. I know that you guys have missed it as much, if not more than I have. All right, so let's jump into this. So we're looking at this polynomial right here. Okay. First thing you want to do is you want to graph in your calculator. So if you go to y equals and type it in, and then if you zoom 6, it will give you a standard 10 by 10 graph, which is nice if some wacky stuff has gone on. Here I saw that all the good stuff was happening in the middle, so I had too much space on the left and the right and the top and the bottom. So I ended up making my scale from -5 to 5 on my calculator. This is from a program on my computer, so that you can see what's going on. So if you look at what we're looking for, we are looking for zeros. Remember that zeros roots, they are just the x-intercepts. And that means that it should be a coordinate. Okay? Your absolute maximum is your highest point. So it should be a coordinate as well, and it should only be one coordinate. The only way that it would be more than one point here is if you had something that the y value for these two were the same. Then they would both be the absolute maximum. Okay, but if you have something like our graph here, the only absolute maximum that we have is this one. Absolute maximum. And there might not be any. Your answer for absolute maximum might be none. Okay? There's also 2 zeros. Okay? Relative maximum is any other max, which we do have in this graph. So in this graph we have this guy right here. He is a highest point, but he's not the highest point. So he is the relative max. Okay? And then, of course, we have minimums. So absolute minimum is the lowest point. In this graph, we do not have one. Normally it will be, of course, this graph, there is none here. And relative minimum are other minimums. We do have other minimums, though. Okay, so this guy, we know that there's going to be 1. I always like to set everything up ahead of time. I have 1 max here. I have 1 max here. And I'm going to have 2 zeros. And since there's zeros, I automatically know that this value is going to be 0. Okay, so I'm all set up. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 critical points. 1, label our relative max, relative min here. Relative min. Alright, and then this is no absolute min because these guys keep going on forever and ever and ever and ever. Okay, so they're going to go all the way down to negative infinity. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 critical points. You can find all of these in your calculator. Okay, for all of these, you're going to hit second trace. This is why you're looking at the graph. All of these you're going to hit second trace. Okay. Ta-da! Now they're all there. Okay. Next, so if you want to find the zeros, once you hit second trace, it comes up with a list of things, and I hope that you guys can see which ones you got to do. So for the zeros, it says 0 on the second option there, so you can hit that second button. For maximums, it is the 4th option, and for minimums, it is the 3rd option. Okay? The other thing that you need to do is it's going to ask you for a left bound. So you need to arrow to the left of whatever you're looking for and hit enter, and then arrow to the right for whatever you're looking for and hit enter, and then it'll ask you to guess, and you enter again. So what that's going to look like on your graph, if you're trying to find this 0 here, you're going to have to be somewhere to the left of it. So just somewhere near it. Click here, enter, and this little arrow will pop up like this, and then you got to be on this side of it and hit enter, and a little arrow here will pop up, and it's only going to look between these values. It can't look through everything because there's more than one zero. It won't know which one you're talking about. So you've got to give it a little range here. You need to be careful with this piece that you hit here and here, okay, for the maximum. If you go too far and you're up at like this point and this point, it's going to give you this value for the maximum because it's looking for the highest Y value. Okay, and same deal with the minimum here. You've got to be careful to only include that little section. Okay? All right. You're going to do this for all of these. Okay, so once you get that, you are going to get some values. So for the zeros here, you should have gotten to 0.45 and 1.31. We're going to round to the hundredths place, just kind of as a norm. If the directions say to balance somewhere else, you need to do that. Your highest point should have been at 0.98, 1.20, and your relative maximum should have been at negative 0.72, negative 0.78, no absolute maximum, and your relative minimum is at negative 0.18, negative 1.09. All right, so that is that. Very calculator heavy. Next, we've got to talk about increasing, decreasing, domain, and range. So remember that when it comes to domain, there's only two things that can restrict you. That's radicals, so square roots, fourth roots, something along that line, and dividing by x. Neither one of those is happening here, so you don't have to worry about it. This is just going to be all real numbers, and we want to see interval notation. Okay. Here. Okay. Don't just put the big R. But you want interval notation, lowest to highest. And if it's a polynomial, that's going to be what it is. This isn't going to change anything if it's a polynomial, because when you have something over x, that is called a rational, and these are called radicals. So radical, rational, what? There's going to be issues there. Polynomials, woohoo! Domain's always that. Okay? Your range is going to be your absolute minimum, comma, your absolute maximum. These are always Y values. Okay? Always, always, always Y values. Well, if we look back, our absolute minimum was none, which means it goes down forever. So my absolute minimum is negative infinity. My absolute maximum, the highest point, absolute maximum, there's my Y value. So if there was one here, you'd still take the Y value of it. Okay? So this is 1.20. Ba-boom. There we go. All right. And then the last piece of this is increasing and decreasing. My big, gigantic suggestion to you is to take two colored pencils or highlighters or something to that effect, or at least look at where you're starting. If I start here and I trace this with my finger, am I increasing or decreasing? I'm starting by increasing. So immediately go to increasing, and you're starting at increasing. Okay? Immediately. Then you need to look at, I'm going to increase to a point. Once you stop increasing, you're going to start decreasing. So I know that I have an interval here, and then I'm going to immediately start decreasing. I'm going to decrease. Then, in this case, I'm going to increase again. If you stop decreasing, you start increasing. And when you start increasing, you stop there, then I decrease all the way on forever. So then I decrease forever. the part of these that gets everyone is that you are only looking at x values, okay? You are only looking at x values, and you do need to put a u here, a union. These could be written horizontally, okay? To find the values in here, the easiest way that I've ever found to do this and explain this is they change at your maxes and mins. So go to your maxes and mins and circle or pull out, highlight the x values. So I have negative 0.18, I have negative 0.72, and I have 0.898. And what I want you to do with those values is I want you to put them in order from lowest to highest. Okay? So I had negative 1.8, which is lower than negative 0.72, and then I had 0.98, which was positive. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going from lowest to highest. So I start here at negative infinity, I go all the way to infinity. Are you ready for this? I know that I'm starting off increasing. There's my increasing. There is my decreasing. So let's write it up while we're looking at it. Increasing is from here to here, so this guy is right there. If I stop increasing, I start decreasing. I'm going to decrease until negative 0.72. If I stop decreasing, I start increasing. And if I stop increasing, then I'm going to stop increasing at 0.98. And if I stop increasing, then I start decreasing. And there's my last interval. Okay? So this is always lowest to highest and interval notation. Okay? Sound good? I missed this with you guys as well. A little time with just you and me. Alright, I will see you next class. Please email me if you have questions. Yeah, that's it.